Okay, I think we are ready. Burness Arena, can you please give a warm welcome to Helen Power from Reckitt?
Hi, thank you. Okay, right then. Apologies, I'm actually not used to public speaking. I'm very used to speaking. I do that quite a lot, but actually speaking in front of an audience, so I do apologise. Okay, so good afternoon. I'm Helen Power, and the topic of my conversation is a digital challenge. There we go. I'll split it into two parts. The first one is a sort of a bit of a whistle-stop tour of how I arrived here today. So a little bit about of how I got into tech and some of the challenges along the way. And the second part is a little bit of a nod to my sponsors, the company I work for now, for Reckitt, and some of the digital challenges that those guys and me face. Okay. So my story begins back in the 1980s when we had rah-rah skirts and pens, and of course I had those as well. I first saw one of these bad boys here, which will be familiar to some of the older people in the audience, and that's a Sinclair Spectrum. My best friend's brother got one of these for Christmas back in 1981, and I fell in love with it. It was definitely a love story. I fell in love with it. I thought, oh wow, you can play games, you can write games, you can do maths puzzles on these things. And I badgered my parents for me to get one of these the following year for Christmas. And it was one of those things, I promise I will clean my bedroom, I'll wash the pots, that's all I want for Christmas, it's all I want for my birthdays. And my parents were true to their words, and that is what I did get for Christmas, was that computer, a Sinclair 48K Spectrum, and actually they were quite nice. They got me a book to go with it. Now that book was what I used to learn to code with, because it was obviously days before the internet, before Stack Overflow, all of that good stuff that we all rely on now. So that's how I learned to code. I was 11. And if you asked the 11-year-old Helen what she wanted to do when she grew up, she'd have given you those traditional answers of, I'd like to be a nurse or a doctor. But actually, deep down, she wanted to be a computer programmer. Whizzing on a few years, and a lot of my misspent youth was spent in computer club at school. My weekends was spent coding on my 48K Spectrum. You get to 14, and you've got to make choices about actually what do you want to do when you grow up. And part of being 14, you've got to pick those subjects you're going to study. You're going to study for the next 2 years, and in my case, I was taking O-levels. Some of you here obviously are making those choices for your GCSEs. They give you choices of subjects, little buckets of subjects. One of the buckets you have to choose from was, one of them, it was computer science or typing. I chose, obviously, computer science. I was taken to one side. Helen, do you realise you're the only girl that's not doing typing? Hear her. Obviously, I continued to do computer science. A year or so later, you have those careers interviews. There was nothing like this event now, where we can actually see all the tech careers that are available to us and available to us in Hull. I had one of those careers interviews. Well, really, the guy behind the desk says, Helen, you're good at maths. Why don't you apply for this YTS scheme in banking? Yeah, not much of a choice. Luckily for me, in the world of banking, I had a very sort of progressive headmistress, also a headmistress that liked to make her opinion known. She took me to one side and she intervened twice in my career choices. She gave me permission to do computer science at A-level, and she also gave me permission to continue that on into doing a degree. So thanks to her, I did go to university. I went to Liverpool John Moores University, got a 2-1 in computer science. One of the observations back then was there were 66 people on our degree course, only 6 were women. Unfortunately, I don't think times have changed an awful lot from my observations. Hopefully, again, events like this will change things. Just very, very quickly, the last 30 years of my career has taken me from APD Communications, where I did get my dream job. I've been a computer programmer. I was also good at other stuff as well, like putting computers together, putting networks together, building things. So I quickly actually came out from behind the computer screen and started to develop a bit of a career in putting stuff together, installations, project management, and then I returned back into development management. Then I had a bit of a career change. I went into taking that development into a business space with a company called Geocom, who are also very local here. And then finally arriving at Reckitt about 8 months ago. Just some of the software projects that I've worked on. I've been to some seriously cool places. The previous speaker was talking about Dubai. Well, I've actually installed a couple of our systems in at Dubai Airport, which was quite awesome. Okay. Probably haven't got time to talk much about this slide. The piece on this slide is very much computer programmer, and sort of being in the tech world, you are actually a little bit distant from the people who actually use your software. And it was a bit of a game changer for me to actually see a real tragic event that happened on the news that wasn't the result of my software, but it was our software helped those people in that control room deal with a really horrible situation. And it's understanding that tech does make a difference. Okay, just to very sort of quickly summarise those challenges that I noted. The weighted subject choices. It's a note to educators. Are we still offering girls options and boys options? And the gendered career options too. Are we still expecting girls to choose more sort of softer subjects and obviously pushing the boys down the technical route? Because obviously there are boys that want to go, you know, I'm thinking it from a female perspective, but I also think it's true from a male perspective too. And for me, it was a lack of female mentors. It was wonderful to see that panel earlier. I actually got an awful lot from seeing the Women in Tech panel earlier. I have to mention number 4, because it is still very true, and it has been something I've been subject to throughout my career, and that is the bullies, the doubters, the people who put blocks in your way. But number 5 is definitely just ignore them and follow your passion and your dream, and you will get to do some really cool things. So now at Reckitt, I changed jobs about 8 months ago during lockdown. It was a little bit scary. And on. I think we're stuck, guys. Oh, there we go. Reckitt are a huge company. That's Reckitt in numbers. I won't go through those, but the number that I actually quite like, going back to understanding that people use your product, is how many products are sold worldwide every single day. Big global company. Another thing I really enjoy about working at Reckitt is I will be talking to India, China, Poland, the States, all in one day, and mostly every day. I will quickly move on to the points I want to make. There we go. There are product sets. You'll have used some of those today. And maybe some products on there that you're actually thinking, I want to be using those later on today. Yep, I'm looking forward to putting the dishwasher on when I get home as well. Okay, where does digital fit into a traditional organisation such as Reckitt and a long-standing organisations such as Reckitt? One of them is a digitisation of internal data. They have an awful lot of data that's captured, and believe it or not, this is a very true statement that I've heard at least twice this week. With digital, we put all of our data onto an Excel spreadsheet and we pop it into SharePoint. That's digital, isn't it? No. So we're doing a project at the moment that's getting all of that data out of the stores and doing something with it, modelling and doing a lot of AI. Information apps, here's one of them. Every good product has always got an app to go with it. And Lysol, which is the US equivalent of Dettol, is no different. I'll move on to products in a moment because this is my baby, and consumer insights. Very quickly, This is quite cool. This is actually what, one of the products that I look after. We've got an IoT-enabled air freshener. Why on earth would you want an IoT-enabled air freshener? Well, it's basically, Reckitt make their money from selling the refills that go into air fresheners. So anything we can do to make that a bit faster and a bit quicker and sell more of them, the better that's going to be. So the device allows the consumer to control their fragrance experience. It also tells them, we have got a mechanism which allows us to feed back how much fragrance is still left in that bottle. And because it's connected, and it's connected to your Amazon DRS account, we'll tell you, you're out of fragrance, would you like another one? Oh, there's one in the post for you. Also, the secondary part of that is we get an awful lot of consumer real-time data from that. Where we are, I've got to point out, we are a responsible collector and user of that data. But we know who the person is, what they're doing, what fragrances they like, when they put it on, which stuff they don't like. We can make some very quick marketing decisions on that data than relying on the stuff that comes back from the stores. So, another summary of our little challenges that we have at Reckitt. We are questioning the established norms and ideas. You know, that thinking that digitisation is putting it on a spreadsheet. We're challenging that. Production of software is very, very different from producing a bottle of bleach. It's very, very different. So it's just you're trying to sort of like point things out of, so it's a bit of a challenge that we've got there. Being understood, because we do speak a different language. I keep hearing the word agile used a lot, and it's making me cringe every time I hear it. Unless you're going to use it in the proper sense, don't use it. Where was the other one that I quite like? Acceptance, yeah, I quite like this. I'm 50 and I'm the new kid on the block. I think that's quite cool. I think as tech people, we always see ourselves as being quite young and down with the kids or whatever the terms are. But yeah, it is. We are still quite cool and we are disruptive. And my final one is going back to point 5. It's still, you can probably tell by the way I'm talking and getting excited about it, is it's still following that passion and your dream. And I think the 11-year-old Helen would actually be quite proud of the Helen that's here now. Thank you very much. Thank you.